Hi everyone. Professor Kampf and I would like to share with you our most recent article, Solemn and Just Demands, that was published in the Review of International Studies journal. This article deals with the question, why do states demand apologies and how do they do so? Situated in the age of apology, we focus our attention to a pivotal aspect that has been surprisingly overlooked, demands for apologies in the international arena. Countless cases of apologies have been the focus of attention in the field of transitional justice, conflict resolution, and discourse studies, contemplating the Speech Act itself and its consequences as part of a wider process of recognition. In contrast, demands form a reflective moment that holds within it the power to reconfigure power relations and the reposition of states within the international system. In what follows, I shall briefly outline the logic behind this research, our analysis, and some of our findings. Demands for apologies are situated within a process of offense and rectification. Following a transgression, a demand is made, and if it is met and a remedy is materialized in the form of an apology, wounded bilateral relations may be restored. Moreover, the balance of power in the wider social network within which the actors take place may be transformed. International norms, customs, and habits can be reassessed, and new interpretations of the past may be legitimized. The moment of demand is constituted by a performative act of public noticing, placing the actors in offender-offended relations. Once a demand is made, a link between what is perceived as a transgression and its expected remedy is formed. The public articulation of the demand varies from an implicit expectation for an apology to an explicit discursive expectation of an apology, and finally, an explicit discursive expectation for material compensation. While the first trajectory is informed by a normative script of what constitutes a diplomatic transgression that requires an apology, the latter two trajectories stand at the heart of this research, as both entail an explicit demand for an apology with or without an additional demand for material compensation. We used a grounded content analysis of demands for apologies to provide an actor-oriented perspective on the expectations for rectification following diplomatic transgressions. Analyzing 57 cases of explicit demands made on diplomatic wrongdoing, as opposed to historical transgressions, we inductively uncovered the normative script state actors reconstruct and activate for extracting recognition and rectification via the practice of demanding apologies. In the article, we elaborate on the discursive construction of transgressions, mapping the types of transgressions and their scripts, including breaches of solidarity and autonomy. But for this presentation, let us skip forward to the discursive construction of the demands themselves. Here, we focus on the content of the demands and their rhetorical construction, the mapping of the types of rectifications expected, and the means that are used to intensify pressure on the demandee so as to ensure his compliance with the demand. Three categories of rectification were identified: verbal public, seeking for acknowledgement of the wrongdoing; material, mostly compensation for a loss; and structural, including various aims to secure forbearance. We also map the intensifiers that accompany these demands, namely the use of threats and ultimatums, the importance of public rage, and sometimes even the creation of a coalition of resentment. Moving on to the discursive effect of demands, here we discuss and exemplify the perlocutionary goal of demanding an apology, namely the practical and intended consequence of the Speech Act of demand. Meaningful trends were observed here despite the relatively small number of cases. Thus, we demonstrate how an agreement between the offender and offendee regarding the offensive nature of the act most often results in an apology, and specifically how in cases of a transgression of autonomy, the demand for an apology was met. A second observable trend concerns the relationships between the intensifiers and the apologies, namely how the intensifiers are regarded as an efficient means to pressurize the other actor into making an apology. This is further strengthened in cases in which there is a breach of autonomy, and we exemplify our findings using the Mavi Marmara incident from 2010. To conclude, this research uncovers the guidance scripts of solidarity and autonomy that serve as normative grounds for making a demand for an apology. What can be learned from this analysis about how such demands can reconfigure power relations in international politics? Adopting practice theorist perspective, we claim that the power of discursive practices, such as demands for apologies, lies in their contribution to producing and maintaining the social order and cooperative relations. Their performance, according to normative diplomatic scripts, is thus a condition for the construction of social relations in world politics. While not covering the entire paper, we hope this brief presentation has provided you with the broader ideas with which our article deals with, and we invite you to read the full article in the Review of International Relations journal. Thank you for your time and your interest.